One of the hardest things to admit is when we've goofed up, we made a mistake, when we have got to take responsibility for something, because it's actually quite painful. It goes against the really most fundamental thing which we try and protect nowadays, which is our self-worth, a feeling of our own importance and feeling good about ourselves. So it's very easy for people to get frustrated with others, pointing the finger at other people, because if we're pointing the finger at other people and making other people responsible for the discomfort that we are feeling, then we don't get to blame ourselves. And this is what this Taboo Wednesday subject is all about. We often will do this, and no one likes to admit they're doing it. No one wants to admit that they failed, or they're messing up, or it's their fault. But when we point the finger at other people, it's usually because, well, it may be right, actually. Let's be honest, it may be right. There's somebody else messed up. But when we're doing it as a deflection against facing up to our own inadequacies, the things that we've done wrong, the mistakes, then we can't fix it. And this is a really common problem. And I see this all the time. And I hear this all the time from people I work with when their boss or other people won't put their hand up and go, hey, actually, that was me. And if you do, really amazing things start to happen. So blaming others, feels easy. They don't have to hold themselves accountable for their actions. But the other thing is we do this for is because we don't want to feel vulnerable. We don't, especially when we're working at a higher level in business, or with a boss, or we're the owner of the business or the CEO. We don't want to look vulnerable, especially if you've got this thing that you're meant to be, superhuman, bulletproof, and fix all the problems. And this often happens with people who are good at what they do, and then almost like they become a legend where they are so good they can't ever fail, they can't make a mistake. And what often happens is this. It's not being nasty to anybody. It's just a way of deflecting from feeling vulnerable or embarrassed that we are not capable of everything. And the interesting thing is nobody is. Nobody is capable of absolutely doing everything, but they don't want to admit that they're failing, they're scared, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed. All the human things that we know others feel, but if we don't want to admit to this, and this is why this ties in with imposter syndrome. One of the biggest things I spend time working with people is people imposter syndrome. And I don't really like that phrase. It's much more practical to say, what do I feel I'm not good enough at? Or what do I not know or believe I'm not good enough at doing? Because as soon as you start putting your hand up and say, I'm not very good at this. And I had a client today who said, I'm going to start studying this because it's not in my wheelhouse. But it's something now at the level I'm at, I need to start looking at it. It's never going to be their speciality. But what they did was they took control because they said, I don't know anything about this, but I need to. I'm just going to learn a bit about it. And that gives you control. That gives you power. But when we've got imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, what we try and do is often we try and hide it. We don't want to admit it. So the feeling of not being good enough and doubts about our skills and talents and trying to prevent people from seeing that is a very common thing. So rather than face this and be honest, we often say, you did it. It was your fault. It's not my fault. Or they may not say it explicitly to that person, but they'll say it to other people to make themselves feel better by blaming other people. So this is a form of sabotage. It's a form of sabotage to preserve our self-worth, to our belief in ourselves. It's always somebody else's fault or some other circumstance. The environment wasn't right, the economic situation wasn't right, whatever. But the moment you do that, you can't change anything because you're blaming it on the one thing you can't change, which is everything else. You can change you though. So solopreneurs blame outside business factors for their business problems. Business leaders blame their employees. An employee blame their colleagues or their boss or whatever else is necessary. So it's a very easy thing to do. And sometimes it's right. Sometimes other people did something wrong. But if you want to change, you have to start with yourself. And it's a painful thing for a lot of people to have to admit, because it can be a bit humbling. It can be a bit embarrassing. But if you did, and this is such a concept, and when we've talked about this before, and I put posts out before, when people have admitted it, that takes bravery. But also what it does, it puts you back in control, because the one thing you can change is yourself. So it may be hard to admit that you may be the problem, but you actually gain far more control of the situation the moment you say it was you. There may be circumstances, there may be people involved, there may be not the best environment. But if you can think, you know what, I goofed up on that, I messed up on that, I didn't do that in the right way, I didn't manage that situation right, I held back from saying what I should have said, and I should have said it. That is when you gain control, when you admit that's what's going on. So your view becomes more peripheral, you see more, because you see what's really going on. It's not just about facing out. You actually see options. You see what you're doing, you see what the possibilities are. As soon as you blame others, you shut down possibilities. And this is what we talk about control. You see more things that are available to you. And that is a definition I use of control, the ability to create options, to be able to see more things that are going on, understand problems better, and actually come up with better solutions. Then you make better decisions, because they're not ones born from frustration or blame. It is down to, what can I do? What can I actually change? And as soon as you take control, guess what? You can usually change loads more than you think you can. I promise you. I've done it hundreds of times with my clients. The moment they say, yeah, I suppose it was me looking at it from this point of view, that means I can. Boom, they're in control. They get better results. So if this is you, and it's not really about blame, it's you trying to protect your self-worth. You're trying to feel good about yourself. So it's an accidental sabotage system that we use. It's a very common thing. We all do it. But if you excessively do it and actually are not in control because of this, then give me a shout, send me a message, or book in a call. And it's a really interesting thing to discover why we excessively don't want to look at ourselves. We blame everything else and everybody else. But the moment you do, you get back in control. And I promise you, results go through the roof, because you then become active, not blaming something else, passive to the situation. Results change because you're in the game, changing the game, deciding what the game is. So I hope this has been useful to you. But it's a hard thing to admit to. But if you do, that's the hardest bit, and things get a lot easier, I promise you. So get in contact if you think, yeah, I know, I need to take control and stop trying to pretend it wasn't me. That is real control. Thanks for your time. I hope this has been useful to you.